Did you know there might be a whole hidden world right under your feet? It's true. There are 493 documented abandoned sites in the U.S. that people have forgotten about. Today we're going to explore 10 of them together. Right beneath the streets, there are secret tunnels, old subway stations no one uses anymore, and even underground cities. These places are full of stories. Some about big dreams that didn't work out, while others are about accidents or strange things that happen underground. Each place has its secrets and forgotten history. Ready? Let's go. Cincinnati's subway system is one of America's strangest underground mysteries. No train has ever used it. The project began in 1916 when city leaders wanted a subway like New York's. By 1920, workers began digging along Central Parkway. The job was tough and dangerous. Over 1,000 workers, many immigrants, used pickaxes and dynamite. Sadly, in 1923, a trench collapsed, killing 3 workers, including 24-year-old Giuseppe D'Alessandro. His death showed how risky the work was. Nonetheless, by the late 1920s, when the city ran out of money, digging stopped. People were left behind with dark, empty tunnels, which was called Cincinnati's biggest mistake. During World War II, parts of the tunnels stored artwork and supplies. In the 1930s, local resident Mildred Ryan called it a ghost subway, a name that stuck. Years later, in 2008, engineers found old station signs, terracotta tiles, and rusty tools from the 1920s. At Ray Street Station, arch ceilings and platforms still stood, showing what could have been. These discoveries sparked new interest. Urban explorers sneaked inside with flashlights, finding graffiti from the 1940s and Cold War markings. In 2020, historian John Blatchford found old blueprints showing plans to extend the subway into neighborhoods like Fairmount, but those plans never happened. Then in 2021, the Cincinnati Historical Society made a virtual reality tour, letting people walk through the tunnels from home, seeing ticket booths, fancy lights, and old designs from long ago. Boston has the oldest subway in the U.S., opening in 1897. Over time, some stations closed and became ghost stations, each with its own story. Scollay Square Station opened in 1898 in a lively area with theaters and immigrant communities. It had beautiful tiles and fancy ironwork. When the government center was built in 1963, the station closed. But during renovations from 2014 to 2016, workers found original tiles. Earlier, the Big Dig in the 1990s revealed hidden stairwells sealed since the 1960s. City Square Station in Charlestown opened in 1901 for streetcars. It served many Navy Yard workers, but closed in 1975 due to low use. In the 2000s, explorers found old signs and graffiti, but the station was sealed in 2020. Boylston Street's original station opened in 1897, but part closed in 1914 because the platforms were too small. In the 1980s, workers discovered old ads hidden under plaster. Some are now preserved, showing life before World War I. Dover Station, later called Arlington, opened in 1897, but closed in 1927. A train accident there in 1907 injured 20 people and raised safety concerns. In 2017, workers found the old platform and a mosaic sign near Arlington Church. Atlantic Avenue Station, which opened in 1904 to help dock workers and immigrants, closed in 1961. Parts of its tunnel were found during the Big Dig, though the station was gone. In 2019, the MBTA offered small tours of some ghost stations. By 2022, 3D models from the Green Line extension showed old tunnels, bringing Boston's subway history back to life. On June 6, 1889, a huge fire burned down 31 blocks of downtown Seattle. After the fire, the city decided to rebuild in a safer way. To stop flooding from high tides, they raised the streets by 8 to 22 feet. They also made a new rule: buildings had to be made of brick or stone, not wood. That's why Pioneer Square today has strong brick buildings with fancy designs. An engineer named Reginald H. Thompson led the street-raising work from the 1890s to 1907. When they raised the streets, the old sidewalks ended up underground. At first, people used ladders and stairs to move between the old and new streets. These underground walkways became known as the Seattle Underground. Some shops stayed open underground, but in 1907 the city closed the area because it was dirty and people worried about diseases. Many interesting people were part of this story. Mary in Conklin, called Madame Damnable, ran a brothel underground and was known for her strong personality. Henry Yesler rebuilt his sawmill after the fire, showing the city's determination to recover. Chinese workers did a lot of the hard work, but were treated unfairly. After the underground closed, people used it for illegal things. During Prohibition, 1920 to 1933, secret bars called speakeasies operated there. Later, there were places for gambling and drug use, especially for immigrants who weren't welcome elsewhere. In the 1960s, a journalist named Bill Spidell wanted to save Pioneer Square from being torn down. In 1965, he started the Seattle Underground Tour, which helped protect the area. By 1970, Pioneer Square became a National Historic Landmark. Today, tours show old shops, broken sidewalks, and signs from the 1800s. Guides even share funny stories like people accidentally falling through glass sidewalks. Even now, people find hidden parts of Seattle's past. In 2019, workers found old wooden water pipes. In 2021, a sealed tunnel was found with old records, shoes, and bottles. In 2015, special equipment found a smuggling tunnel under Yesler Way. Kansas City Subtropolis is a giant underground business park built in 1964 by Hunt Midwest inside an old limestone mine. The limestone, called Bethany Falls limestone, was mined since the 1800s and even helped build the Empire State Building. When mining stopped, the empty tunnels became a place for businesses. Companies like it because the temperature stays a cool 68 degrees Fahrenheit all year, saving money on heating and cooling. Many families have worked there for generations. Joe O'Brien remembers when miners used pickaxes in the 1950s before machines took over in the 1960s. Today, over 700 people work in Subtropolis with more than 400 businesses. Big tenants include the U.S. Postal Service's largest underground mail center since 1992 and underground vaults and storage since 1965, which keeps important documents safe. During the Cold War in the 1980s, people thought Subtropolis could survive a nuclear attack, attracting government interest, though how much it was used is unclear. Subtropolis keeps growing. In 2020, Hunt Midwest added more space when companies needed storage during the pandemic. While expanding, workers found 300-million-year-old fossils now studied by scientists at the University of Kansas. Engineers use new technology to keep it safe. They scan walls with lasers and prevent leaks with help from Missouri S&T since 2018. The underground location saves companies about 40% on energy, and by 2021, energy use had dropped 30% over 10 years. People can visit Subtropolis on yearly tours to explore tunnels, learn about geology, and enjoy local art displays inside. Sacramento's old Sacramento Underground tunnels were built after two big disasters in the 1800s. In 1852, a huge fire burned much of the city, and in 1861 to 62, the Great Flood covered Sacramento with about 10 feet of water. To prevent future floods, the city decided to raise downtown by 10 to 15 feet. During the 1860s and 1870s, workers built thick brick walls and new streets above the old ones. This left the original ground floors underground, creating tunnels used for storage, businesses, and secret activities. In the 1920s, during Prohibition, people used the tunnels to hide speakeasies, secret bars, and smuggle alcohol. Shop owners stored goods there, sometimes pulling items through trapdoors above. Diaries from that time describe dark tunnels and the sound of carriages overhead. The tunnels also connect to Sacramento's Chinese community. Many Chinese immigrants who helped build the Transcontinental Railroad lived nearby, and archaeologists have found medicine bottles and mahjong pieces from that time. The 1852 fire led to stronger brick buildings, while the 1862 flood made raising the streets urgent. Workers used jack screws to lift entire buildings, a risky but necessary job. When the railroad finished in 1869, the tunnels stored train goods as Sacramento became a busy hub. exciting discoveries keep happening. In 2016, workers found 1800s items like leather shoes and a soda bottle. In 2020, crews found old Chinatown artifacts. And in 2021, an old saloon entrance was uncovered. Today, people can explore these tunnels on tours. Guides share stories of floods, hidden bars, and city life long ago. With new technology, like LiDAR, hidden parts of the tunnels continue to be found and preserved. Houston's underground tunnel system is like a hidden city beneath downtown, stretching about 6.5 miles and connecting 95 city blocks. It began in 1936 with one tunnel linking the Rice Hotel to the Kirby Theater, giving theatergoers a cool, air-conditioned path to shows. In the 1960s and 70s, developers expanded the tunnels while building skyscrapers like the ExxonMobil building. By the 1980s, the tunnels became a vital way for people to avoid Houston's extreme heat. Today, thousands use them daily. The tunnels have over 300 restaurants, shops, and services, including PJ's Coffee Shop, which has served customers since 1986. Many people walk the tunnels for exercise or lunch, but the network is so big that visitors often get lost without a map. Locals share fun stories about confused tourists and cool spots like the sky ceiling, which looks like a real sky inside the Bank of America Center. Renovations have revealed hidden pieces of history. In 2019, workers found a 1930s tunnel with original floors and hand-painted signs. In 2020, repairs uncovered old ads from the 1950s near Main Street. A 2018 project near Market Square revealed 1960s murals celebrating Houston's Space City nickname. Hurricane Harvey in 2017 flooded parts of the tunnels, leading to a $10 million upgrade to improve drainage. With over 50 owners managing different sections, protecting the entire system from floods is tricky. The tunnels reflect Houston's growth, especially in oil and technology. Some people want better access, like weekend hours or connections to public transport, while others think the tunnels should be protected as historic landmarks. The Prohibition Tunnels under Los Angeles were secret passageways used to smuggle alcohol during Prohibition, 1920 to 1933. While some stories mix fact and myth, discoveries show how these tunnels helped hide liquor from the police. Los Angeles was ideal for bootleggers because of its ports and closeness to Mexico. Smugglers like Anthony Cornero used ships to sneak in alcohol, then moved it through underground tunnels connecting warehouses, speakeasies, secret bars, and businesses. The Alexandria Hotel was a known hotspot. Its basement tunnels led to places like Cole's French Dip, which had its own hidden speakeasy. Police tried to stop the smuggling. In 1921, they raided a speakeasy under the Barclay Hotel and found 500 gallons of whiskey. But corruption was common, so operations often restarted quickly. Rival bootleggers sometimes fought over territory. In 1927, a shootout near the tunnels left 3 people dead, though news of it was kept quiet. New discoveries keep revealing tunnel secrets. In 2015, a sinkhole near the Alexandria Hotel exposed a tunnel with broken whiskey bottles and smuggling tools. From 2020 to 2023, metro expansions found sealed tunnels near Little Tokyo, once used for smuggling. In 2022, USC researchers used radar to find hidden rooms with crates labeled medicinal alcohol, a legal loophole for selling liquor. Most tunnels existed before Prohibition for utilities, but bootleggers took advantage of them. Unlike myths about kidnapping, these tunnels mainly moved alcohol. Today, tours and preservation efforts share the hidden history beneath LA streets. New York City's subway system, which opened in 1904, has changed a lot over time. Some stations were closed and forgotten, but they still tell stories about the city's past. City Hall Station opened on October 27, 1904, as the end of the first subway line. It was famous for its beautiful design with arches, skylights, and fancy tiles. But as trains got longer, the station's curved platform didn't fit them. It closed on December 31, 1945. Today, people can visit it on special tours to see how elegant the subway once was. Court Street Station in Brooklyn opened on April 9, 1936. Even though it was modern, few people used it because nearby stations were more convenient. It closed in 1946. In 1976, it became the New York Transit Museum, where visitors can explore old subway cars and learn about transit history. 91st Street Station was one of the original 28 stations. It was between the 86th and 96th Street stops, making it unnecessary. It closed in 1959, but parts of it are still visible from passing trains. People are working to protect these old stations. The City Hall station is well preserved and shows how much the city values its transit history. Tours and museum exhibits help people understand how New York's subway system has changed while keeping its past alive. The Shanghai tunnels under Portland's Old Town were built between 1850 and the 1940s to move goods from the river docks to nearby buildings. Many people believe these tunnels were used to kidnap people for ship work, a practice called Shanghaiing. While Shanghaiing did happen in Portland, most victims were tricked or drugged in bars not taken through the tunnels. The name Shanghai Tunnels became popular later to make tour stories more exciting. Several people were known for Shanghaiing. In the 1880s, James Turk worked with bar owners to drug men. In 1883, a sailor named John Miller escaped Turk by jumping into the Willamette River. Vulnerable groups like Chinese immigrants and women were often targeted. In 1894, a Chinese worker, Ling Sing, spoke out about being kidnapped. Another famous figure, Bunko Kelly, was said to have kidnapped over 1,000 men, though many stories about him may be exaggerated. Portland tried to stop Shanghaiing with laws in 1873, but they weren't strongly enforced. In 1906, Oregon made Shanghaiing illegal, and by the 1910s the practice had decreased. Studies show the tunnels were real, but there's no clear proof they were used for kidnapping. A 2002 survey found old walls and trapdoors. In 2017, researchers found shackles that might have held cargo, and in 2019, workers found a tunnel filled with 1920s trash, hinting at Prohibition use. Today, the tunnels are a popular tourist spot. While some tours focus on kidnapping stories, historians believe the tunnels mainly moved freight. In 2021, Portland worked to protect parts of these fascinating tunnels. The Centralia mine fire began in 1962 and turned Centralia, Pennsylvania, into almost a ghost town. In the early 1900s, the town was busy with 14 coal mines and about 500 people. By the 1960s, most mines had closed, but over 1,000 people still lived there. The fire started when the town tried to burn trash near the Oddfellows Cemetery. The flames spread to an underground coal seam and couldn't be stopped even with water and clay. The fire caused dangerous situations. In 1979, the town's mayor found that gasoline in underground tanks was 172 degrees Fahrenheit, 77.8 degrees Celsius. In 1981, a 12-year-old boy, Todd Domboski, fell into a sinkhole that suddenly opened in his backyard. The 4-foot-wide, 150-foot-deep hole released poisonous gas, but Todd's cousin saved him just in time. As the danger grew, the U.S. Congress gave over $42 million in 1984 to help residents relocate. Most people left, and by 1992, Pennsylvania took control of the land. In 2002, Centralia lost its zip code, and by 2013, only 5 people remained. The fire has burned about 400 acres underground and spreads 75 feet each year. Ground temperatures can reach 176 degrees Fahrenheit, 80 degrees Celsius, much hotter than normal soil. Roads cracked and steamed, forcing the closure of part of Route 61, later known as the Graffiti Highway. In 2020, the road was covered with dirt to prevent trespassing. Today, the Centralia fire still burns, reminding us how one small fire caused lasting damage. Our journey through these 10 underground worlds is over, but it makes you wonder, what other secrets are hiding beneath our cities? Next time you're walking in Cincinnati, Seattle, or any of these places, take a second to think. What's under your feet? Could be an old subway platform, a tunnel used during Prohibition, or maybe something no one has found yet. Did you like exploring these hidden places? Hit like and share with a friend who loves cool history. Tell us, which underground city would you want to explore the most? Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll uncover more underground wonders. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next chapter of our adventures.